Have you ever asked the question, why does hate happen? Sometimes hate is uncomprehendable. Genesis, the third chapter, tells us the root of all hate. Imagine that, knowing the root of all hate. Because the reason that it can show us, because it's after the fall of man. That's when sin originated. So when the Lord blamed the devil for deceiving Eve, he gave him three consequences. The last consequence is hate. So if we see the two prior consequences, then we can understand the depth of hate. We'll be able to comprehend where that hate is stemming from. So the last consequence is hate. The first two consequences before hate is pretty much explained in the story of the fall. The first consequence, he said that he told the devil he was going to be cursed above his kind, above all beasts. He said above all cattle and above all beasts of the field. That was the first consequence of deceiving Eve. Curse means that what you have a right to will be taken away from you. Your authority will be taken away from you. Like the man Adam experienced in the garden. Like I said, when he was sitting there, he wasn't the Adam that God commanded. Over in the second chapter, it says her husband. And that word husband, it meant the same part of man that was taken out of him to make a woman. So Adam, his right, his authority was taken away from him in the garden by the woman. And so that was the first consequence for the devil. What's rightfully his was going to be taken away. He was going to be cursed above all beasts. So the second consequence was, it says that he would eat, on his belly he would go and he would eat the dust of the earth. Man's flesh is made out of the dust of the earth. And so we know flesh is carnality, and we know that it's explained in Genesis 3 in the fall when Eve said that she saw the tree was good for food. It was pleasant to the eyes. Tree desired to make one wise. We could see the layers of the heart, and we can also see the flesh, and her heart was turned toward the devil. That's the flesh. But do we ever think about what would have happened if she wasn't deceived? We can see what would have happened over in Luke 4 when the devil approached Jesus with those same temptations. Jesus passed all three of those tests that the woman failed. And what did it say? Jesus went forth in power. So Eve's power got taken away from her. Those are the two things that take place before you see hate in its finest. The right to what your authority has been taken away, and your power. And you can see the authority to understand the difference between authority and power. Authority you can see in a calling. Adam was called to do, the Lord commanded him not to do this, but the woman took his place. And so the ability is wrapped up in the power. Like Satan was tempting Jesus and saying, if you be the Son of God, turn this stone into bread. And that's an ability. If you be the Son of God, cast yourself down. That's the third temptation, actually. And the second temptation, he was trying to make him to worship him. So, but the result of passing those tests is walking in power. So the woman didn't get a chance to walk in power. So those two things takes place before hate. But Genesis, the third chapter, is not the only place that you see those three things in operation. You see it also over in 2 Samuel, the 11th and the 12th chapter, with the story of David and Bathsheba. And so it starts out with David. It was time, it was end of the year, they called it spring, and it was time for all of the kings to go out to war. And David didn't want to go. He sent his commander in chief and the servants out to go fight what kings normally fight. So what did David do? David went on top of his roof walking. That's when he looked through the window and seen beautiful Bathsheba. And so first he inquired of her, and they told her, yeah, that's the daughter of, I think her father's name is Elam. And they said, yes, that's Uriah's wife. David still sent his messengers to go get her. So first you see David giving up his authority, his calling to be king, when kings normally go out and pass in a buck. And then you see him sending for Uriah's wife. Now you see the lust in action. You don't see it in detail, but it will talk about it in the 12th chapter. So you see that take place. So Bathsheba, it was that time of the month. So after that time of the month, so she got pregnant and conceived. So what did David do? David thought of killing Uriah. He told his commander in chief, when Uriah gets back, first he tried to set him up. And Uriah didn't fall for it, tried to come back, get him to sleep with his wife, and then he'd think it was, his baby. But Uriah would never go in with his wife. He slept outside the door saying, everybody else is out to war. I don't want to be doing that. So since he would go home with his wife, David, showing hate, sent him back out, said, we're going to put you on the front line, told him, the commander, make sure he gets killed. So you see the hate. So David did that, and what happened? So the 12th chapter, God sends Nathan the prophet to tell David what he has done. He talks about a story. He talks about a story with a rich man, a poor man, a lamb, some livestock, and a traveling man. The rich man and the traveling man is David. The poor man is Uriah, and the lamb is Bathsheba. Of course, the livestock is all of David's wives. Okay, so the rich man had the traveling man come to town. And the traveling man wanted, he wanted to give him a lamb. So what did he do? The rich man took from the poor man. He took the poor man's only lamb that he had. And so it talks about, David talked about how the poor man looked at the lamb. Now listen to it. Now you can see whose power was taken. The lamb was Bathsheba. She was Uriah's wife. The poor man was Uriah. Listen to how Uriah treated Bathsheba. He said first, the poor man bought the lamb. Okay, that's one layer of the heart. That's the possession part. Then he said he raised her up. That's the second. Second temptation is position. Then he said he raised her with him and with his children. He gave her a little small portion of drink, a little small portion of meat. He treated her even as a daughter. Uriah treated his wife as a daughter. It says, instead of building a woman, how the Lord said he took the rib from Adam's side and built a woman. That's what made means. Daughter means is the same, it's made of two words. One of the parts of the words means built, but the other part means child. Uriah built a child. So he took Bathsheba's ability to be a woman. And so you have David's authority being taken, and you have Bathsheba's ability, her power has been taken. And so that's how the hate was manifested. So the same two things that took place to develop hate over in Genesis is the same thing that took place over in 2 Samuel 11 and 12 in order for hate to be manifested.